Zane was sitting at his kitchen table on a Tuesday afternoon, unemployed by choice for exactly 1 week, when his phone buzzed with a notification from his bank. Your monthly statement is ready. He almost ignored it. Instead, he opened it, and somewhere between the third sip of his coffee and the fourth line of that statement, something broke inside him. Not emotionally, mathematically. He'd averaged $14,000 in that account across the previous 12 months. His bank had rewarded that loyalty with $8.31 in interest. $8. His neighbor's kid earned more running a lemonade stand on a slow Saturday. That moment didn't make Zane angry. It made him curious. Specifically, it made him ask the question that changes everything. How many other places is this exact same trick running? How many other quiet little systems are draining his future while he sleeps, watches television, and assumes someone somewhere is at least partially looking out for him? Spoiler, nobody is. But the beautiful part, the genuinely remarkable part, is that fixing it costs exactly $0 and roughly the length of one unremarkable evening. This is that evening. Let's start with the concept that rewires everything else, because without understanding this one idea, all the tactics in the world are just noise. Most people measure their financial health by income. Zane did too. Bigger salary equals faster finish line, right? Wrong. And the data is almost offensive about how wrong. A researcher named Pete Adeny, better known online as Mr. Money Mustache, mapped the actual relationship between how much of your income you keep versus how long you have to work before stopping permanently. The results look less like a financial chart and more like an escape hatch. At a 10% savings rate, meaning you keep a dime of every dollar after taxes, you work approximately 51 years before the math sets you free. At 15%, 43 years. Push to 25% and it collapses to 32 years. Hit 50% and you're done in 17. Here's the part Zane circled 3 times with a red pen. The jump from 10 to 25% savings didn't trim a few years off the sentence. It erased 19 of them. 19 years. Same salary, same job title, same city. Just a different relationship with the money already flowing through your hands. The reason savings rate is so uniquely powerful is that it applies pressure from both directions simultaneously. Every additional dollar you keep does 2 things at once. It grows the pile you're building and shrinks the pile you'll eventually need, because a person spending less requires a smaller retirement fund to sustain them. No other variable in personal finance does both jobs at the same time. Not income, not investment returns, not timing the market, just the savings rate. Now, Zane's first reaction was the same as yours probably is. He couldn't just manufacture a higher savings rate out of thin air. He had rent, car payments, groceries, and a standing weekly obligation to terrible but beloved takeout pizza. Fair, completely fair. Which is exactly why we're not here to talk about cutting. We're here to talk about the 4 invisible drains that are already suppressing his savings rate without him consciously choosing to let them do so. Plug those, and the rate climbs without the pizza disappearing. The first drain, the bank that charges you for trusting it. Zane's $8.31. Let's do the full autopsy. The bank holding his $14,000 was paying him an interest rate of 0.01%, not 1%, 1/100th of 1%. At that exact same moment in time, fully FDIC-insured high-yield savings accounts carrying the identical federal deposit guarantee, the identical legal protection, the identical accessibility were offering interest rates near 4%. Same insurance, same liquidity, same government backing, 400 times the return. On a $10,000 emergency fund, that differential is the difference between $10 per year and $400 per year. It's not life-changing on its own, but here's why it matters beyond the dollar amount. It reveals the operating principle of the entire system. Your bank has no financial incentive to tell you a competitor will pay you 400 times more. None. Your inertia, the fact that you opened that account at 19 and your paycheck still lands there through sheer momentum, is a revenue stream. Across a deposit base running into the trillions, that collective inertia is worth tens of billions of dollars annually to institutions that profit from your assumption that everything is probably fine. The fix takes 10 minutes. Open a high-yield savings account at any FDIC-insured online bank, transfer the emergency fund, done. Zane did it during a commercial break. He considers it the highest paid 10 minutes of his life on a per-hour basis. The second drain: free money with an expiration date. Here's a sentence that should not be controversial, but somehow remains widely ignored. If your employer offers a 401k match and you are not contributing enough to capture every dollar of it, you are voluntarily declining a portion of your own compensation package. The mechanics work like this. Most companies offering a match will contribute 50 cents for every dollar you put in, up to roughly 6% of your salary. You contribute 6%, they add 3% on top of it at no additional cost to you, at no additional cost. That is a 50% guaranteed return on that portion of your money before the market opens on Monday morning. There is no investment product, no savings vehicle, no financial instrument available to retail consumers that delivers a guaranteed 50% return. It does not exist. Except here, hiding inside the benefits portal you last visited when you were onboarded and haven't opened since.
And yet, research tracking over 4 million workers found that 1 in 4 employees fails to contribute enough to capture the full employer match. Among workers earning under $40,000 annually, the figure climbs to 42%. The people with the greatest financial need for this benefit are the ones the system's design makes least likely to claim it. That's not coincidence, that's architecture. Zane logged into his benefits portal the same night he opened his high-yield account. He moved his contribution rate from 4% to 6%. The adjustment appeared on his next paycheck. He describes the experience as clicking a button that paid me a raise. The third drain: the fee you've never seen on a single statement. This is where Zane's story and yours starts getting genuinely expensive. Inside the retirement account you already have, the mutual funds holding your money charge an annual fee called an expense ratio. It comes out of your investment returns before they ever reach your balance, which means it never appears as a line item. You don't receive an invoice, you don't authorize a withdrawal. It simply reduces the return that gets credited to you invisibly every single day the market is open. Here's what that invisibility costs over time. Take $100,000, invest it for 30 years at a 6% average annual return. Inside a fund charging 0.1% annually, a reasonable low-cost fund, you finish with approximately $574,000. Now, run the exact same scenario with a fund charging 2% annually, which is not unusual for actively managed funds. Same starting amount, same market conditions, same 30-year window. You finish with roughly $334,000. The fee difference, 2% versus 0.1%, consumed $240,000 of your future, $250,000, gone without a single notification, statement line, or moment of felt loss. The natural defense of expensive funds is that professional managers justify higher costs through superior performance. The data disagrees emphatically. S&P Global tracks this systematically through a report called the SPIVA Scorecard. Over a 15-year measurement window, across 22 separate categories of U.S. stock funds, the number of categories in which the majority of active managers outperformed their benchmark index was 0. Not a slim majority, not close. 0 out of 22 categories over 15 years. Meanwhile, index funds, the passive, algorithm-driven funds that simply hold everything in the market proportionally, charge expense ratios as low as 0.05%, sometimes literally nothing on certain institutional share classes. Zane had been sitting in an actively managed fund charging 0.8% for 6 years without realizing it. He moved to a total market index fund in about the time it takes to order lunch. The effect on his long-term trajectory was not trivial. Running the projection forward, the fee reduction alone is worth several additional years of financial independence. If you also carry a financial advisor charging the conventional 1% of assets annual fee, layer this on top. Industry analysts suggest that every 1% in ongoing fees costs the average investor between 5 and 7 years of working life. Not $5,000 to $7,000, 5 to 7 years. The fee is not a small line item. It is a career extension written in fine print. The fourth drain, the triple tax advantage almost nobody uses. Zane had heard of health savings accounts. He'd skipped past the enrollment option 3 consecutive years because the name sounded like a healthcare administration task, and he had enough of those already. He was, in retrospect, skipping past the most tax-efficient account in the American financial system. Here's why the HSA is extraordinary. Every other tax-advantaged account gives you one tax benefit. A traditional 401k lets contributions in pre-tax, but taxes withdrawals. A Roth IRA accepts post-tax contributions, but shields future growth from taxes. The HSA does something no other account accomplishes. It is tax-free going in, tax-free while it grows, and tax-free coming out, provided funds are used for qualified medical expenses. 3 separate tax advantages stacked on a single account. And because contributions made through employer payroll also bypass FICA taxes, the 7.65% that funds Social Security and Medicare, it offers a fourth benefit that even the 401k cannot match. For 2026, the contribution limits sit at $4,400 for individuals and $8,750 for families. But the strategy that transforms this from a healthcare spending account into a genuine retirement powerhouse is counterintuitive. Don't spend it on healthcare right now. Instead, invest the balance in a low-cost index fund inside the account. Most major HSA providers do this. Pay your current medical bills from your regular checking account and save every single receipt. Because here's the rule almost nobody knows. There is no time limit on reimbursing yourself from an HSA. A receipt from 2026 can be used to withdraw funds tax-free in 2041. Which means that $90 urgent care visit Zane had last spring is sitting in a folder on his desktop, quietly appreciating, waiting to be redeemed 2 decades from now, after the money behind it has compounded uninterrupted. Max the family contribution for 30 years at historical average returns, and the account grows to approximately $826,000 in fully tax-sheltered funds. Funds that will be needed because Fidelity estimates the average couple faces $345,000 in out-of-pocket medical costs across retirement. The HSA covers that bill with interest. 80% of HSA holders keep their balance in a cash savings position, earning negligible returns. The account most people treat as a medical debit card is actually the closest thing to a legally sanctioned financial loophole that the tax code contains. What the machine looks like when it's running. Let's meet Zane's version of the Parkers. Call them his parallel self and his partner. 2 people earning the median U.S. household income, doing nothing exotic, living an ordinary life in an ordinary city. Version 1 of them does what the system suggests, contributes just enough to capture the employer match, leaves the balance in whatever the fund defaulted them into, keeps savings at their original bank, and waves past the HSA enrollment screen every November. Savings rate with employer contributions included, around 9%. At 9%, the math delivers freedom in roughly 33 years. Start at 28, finish at 61. Not a disaster, just the default. Version 2 makes 4 changes. They push retirement contributions higher, max the family HSA, open a Roth IRA with the remaining capacity, and collect every dollar of employer match. Same income, same household expenses, same city. They swap the default fund for the index fund. They move the emergency cushion to a high-yield account. Savings rate with employer money included, approximately 32%. At 32%, the math moves the finish line to 54, 7 years returned. 7 years is not a number. 7 years is roughly 2,500 mornings you don't spend commuting. It's 360 weekdays in the middle of autumn that belong to you. It's the version of your 60s that starts with full energy instead of accumulated exhaustion. Version 2 didn't earn more money, they just stopped letting 4 invisible systems take it.
The early access question nobody asks. Here's where the skeptic in the room raises a hand. Retirement accounts can't be touched before 59.5 without a penalty. If Zane retires at 54, how does he actually access the money? The answer comes in 3 forms, all of them perfectly legal, none of them obscure. The first is the Roth conversion ladder. Each year after leaving work, with income near zero and taxes at their lowest, you convert 1 year's worth of living expenses from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, paying minimal tax on the conversion. 5 years after each conversion, those funds are accessible penalty-free and tax-free at any age. You need 5 years of accessible savings to bridge the gap while the ladder seasons, which a 32% savings rate naturally produces. Alternatively, IRS Rule 72T permits penalty-free withdrawals from an IRA at any age, provided you commit to substantially equal periodic payments for a minimum of 5 years. And the Rule of 55 allows penalty-free access to a current employer's 401k if you separate from employment at age 55 or later. All 3 provisions are embedded in the tax code publicly and deliberately. They exist because legislators intended early retirement to be accessible to people who planned for it. Why this isn't a secret and why that's almost worse. Here's the uncomfortable truth Zane landed on, and it's more unsettling than a conspiracy. Nobody hid any of this. Every piece of this framework is on government websites, written into the tax code in accessible language, available in your benefits portal, indexed on the IRS website. Nothing was placed in a vault. There is no memo inside a bank's headquarters ordering the suppression of high-yield account information. What exists, instead, is an incentive structure where the profitable outcome for every institution you interact with financially happens to be identical to the default outcome for you, and it is not the optimal outcome for you. Your bank earns the spread between what it pays you and what it charges borrowers. It has no reason to advertise competitors. The investment industry manages fees on assets, over $144 trillion globally, so the funds with the largest fees carry the largest distribution budgets and the most prominent placement on plan menus. The index fund with the 0.05 expense ratio earns a quiet mention in small font. Your advisor, in most retail relationships, is legally required only to recommend products that are suitable for you, a standard that permits significant conflicts of interest while remaining technically compliant. The silence is the system working as designed. The defaults path and the profitable for institutions path are the same road, not a conspiracy, just architecture. And the only way to step off it is to notice it first. Zane tells this story now at dinner parties, mostly when someone mentions their bank account balance and then mentions their interest rate in the same breath. He's not evangelical about it. He just asks one question. What is your savings rate doing to your retirement date right now? Because somewhere ahead of you is a version of your life 10 years from now. The distance between the one that finishes at 64 and the one that finishes at 54 isn't income. It isn't luck. It isn't a financial advisor in a glass office downtown. It's one evening, 4 settings, $0, and the decision to stop assuming that nobody's quietly profiting from your silence. The math is already running. The only question is whether it's running for you or against you.